in Gaza and says he's looking to resolve a range of global crises.
And we're looking at Gaza, and we got to get that taken care of. A lot of people are starving. There's a lot of bad things going on.
The president also said he was not surprised President Vladimir Putin did not attend peace talks in Turkey and would meet with the Russian leader as soon as he could set it up. AP's Charles de Ledesma reports on those direct peace talks between Ukrainian and Russian officials without the presence of Putin.
The two sides are gathering in Istanbul for Turkish brokered negotiations, but officials and observers expect them to yield little immediate progress on stopping the more than 3-year war. A Ukrainian delegation led by the defense minister is due to meet with a low-level Russian team headed by a presidential aide. The latest push to end the fighting got off to a rocky start on Thursday when Russian President Vladimir Putin spurned an offer by Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky to meet face-to-face. Delegations from the two countries also flew to different Turkish cities and put together teams of significantly different diplomatic heft for possible talks.
New Jersey transit commuter train engineers have gone on strike Friday in a dispute over wages. The walkout affects about 350,000 commuters in New Jersey and New York City. Text messages between the R&B singer Cassie and Sean Diddy Combs were the focus of the 4th day of testimony in his sex trafficking trial. Lawyers for Combs sought to portray Cassie to the jury as a willing participant in his sexual lifestyle. Her testimony resumes Friday. This is AP News. AP correspondent Sagar Magani reports on a former White House chef's take on cooking for first families.
A former White House chef says she got to see the other side of first families while preparing their meals. Christina Comerford retired last year as the longest-serving chef here at the White House, starting with the Clinton presidency and including nearly 20 years as its top chef, while things like state dinners and holiday parties get the most attention.
At the end of the day, when you do the family meals upstairs, they're just regular people at home.
Comerford tells the AP it's not what you see on the news. They're just people who want to sit down with their families.
They just want a good meal.
And unlike state dinners, this is not fine dining. Comerford says you have to know how to make eggs and cook a smash burger. Sagar Magani at the White House.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops, a high in the upper 80s. Windy southwest winds increase around 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusting as high as 45. For tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 54. Saturday, partial sunshine, breezy, high around 67 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 66.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like frames. Because you found a classic 70s concert poster. But when you went to get it framed, you realized the frame will cost about 4 times the amount of the poster. Which is actually absurd because no one will be looking at the frame, and if they are, then you severely overestimated how cool this poster is. But then you remember by switching your home and auto to Progressive, you could save hundreds and put it towards a classic 70s concert poster in an absurdly overpriced frame. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Hey, good Friday morning, progressives, and welcome to the May 16th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. You know what that is? That's the Credo Mobile text line. That's what that is, guys. Make sure you check out credomobile.com. Also, you can catch us on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and, of course, iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@wcpt 820.com. I got some emails to catch up on, but I will do that. And should be dropping a new Substack over the weekend. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify. That's where you can get Choose Views, short versions and long versions. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez driving you home every day. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath and Out Chicago, and our other great shows and interviews. And of course, check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform, as we say every single day. What a week. I mean, I got to give some shout outs. Monday, Sarah Jones from Politicus USA, Rich Logis from Leaving MAGA with his guest Steve Vilches. On Tuesday, Michelle Peltier, Moments with Michelle, was with us. Homer Bryant, Mike Dumke, Kurt Mullett, Andrew Sillickson, Wendy Singer, Robert Emmons, Ron Firestein. And of course, today we'll have our great friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast, and Nathan Shrader will be with us. But right now, check this out, progressives.
Veterans a day commit suicide, and if we fire 83,000 people in the VA, I have been sending Lieutenant Colonel Joni Ernst messages and messages. I want to know how many of those people are doctors and nurses and suicide hotline people. And I got one other thing to say. At least I know what the Declaration of Independence is, and it's not a love letter.
I couldn't have said that better myself. Well, thank you for that service, and thank you for taking a stand for those who come home. And we, definitely people I served with came home physically intact, but they still didn't make it. And it is a profound crisis. And the good news is our country is gradually doing a much better job, generally and with respect to veterans, of recognizing culturally the importance of mental health, understanding that mental health ought to be something we deal with and be able to talk about. That someday you could talk about having a experience with depression or bipolar disorder the same way that you can talk about you're getting ready to have a knee replaced. We, as a country, are not there yet, but we've come a long way. And yet at the very moment when the VA is staffing up and gearing up to better reflect that, they're cutting people. I met with someone at the VA earlier today who was explaining how part of what they've done is when there was a vacancy, like a physician moves on, they're getting ready to hire another one, they eliminate it. And that way they can say it's fully staffed, but they've just reduced the number of people who can serve our veterans. They made cuts that impacted the Veterans Crisis Line. Why in the world would the Trump administration cut a literal lifeline for America's veterans? Thank you.
Throughout the course of this week, we've touched a little bit on, with some of our guests, the importance of care, medical care, mental care, and the like. Care for our children, making sure that we are slowing this train down and not cutting where there needs to be protections for all American citizens. This gentleman is a 35-year veteran in the Army and was talking about the lead part of this, or the beginning few seconds of this was talking about that when he introduced himself. And that's what you heard in terms of that applause. But that's where we are. We have to slow this train down. And, a couple of our guests this week have talked about the importance of that and the importance of no shame. Wendy Singer yesterday. Robert Emmons from 1AIM even talked about the tragedy of gun violence and how that has been so under cared for. We don't talk about the tragedy that comes, the mental tragedy, the trauma of all of that. Cutting care for women in as it relates to women's reproductive rights. all of these things are part of how we care for each other and how we look out for each other. And today I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about that with some of the clips that we have and how I think it's incredibly important. It's beyond, the word we can come up with a lot of different words, and it still wouldn't be enough words to express how important it is that we care for each other. And I've talked about the importance of community the last few weeks, and longer than that, but particularly the last couple of weeks and during the course of this week. So I'm going to, lean into that a little bit today because some of our elected officials have had some comments about it as well. So we have some clips that we'll be playing for you in that space. But it's Friday, and we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about some things to do here and around the Chicagoland area. So let's bring that to you. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into some topics. This week is that, we're a week away from Memorial Day, which a lot of people are getting geared up for. But here's some things to do if you're in and around the Chicagoland area. Mayfest taking place today, tomorrow, and Sunday at 1000 West Armitage. It's a Lincoln Roscoe Art and Craft Fair taking place in that area, so you'll have a chance to make your way over there. The Windy City Margarita Fest. Now, be careful, y'all. That's taking place later today as well as Saturday and Sunday. 1000 West Cermak Road, kind of in the Pilsen area of Chicago. If you know your way around, make your way over there. And the Chicago Horror Film Festival, halfway to Halloween is what it's called, up in at the Logan Theater, 2646 North Milwaukee Avenue. Get out and about and check those productions out. And then the Trinity Irish Dance Company at MCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, taking place later today and as well as tomorrow and Sunday, 220 East Chicago Avenue, kicking off its 35th season with a three-day, 4-hour performance at the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Chicago. And then, like I said, make your way up to the Lincoln Roscoe area for the Craft Art Fair, which is taking place tomorrow and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. respectively. Get out and about, some 70 artists and artisans selling paintings and sculptures. Another way to get out and enjoy yourself here and around Chicago is spring planting. Event is taking place in the South Merrill Community Garden, which is 7030 West Merrill. And Pet Rescue tomorrow at the Chicago Pet Healthcare Fair is taking place at 5555 West Grand Avenue. Something for those who are lovers of pets, free vaccines and free microchips and pet food. And there's also hold on a second, got my pages mixed up there. Yeah, there we go. The May Planting Party, I should say, that's taking place tomorrow. Victory Tree Garden, 8911 South Exchange. So lots of things to do in and around the Chicago area this weekend. Mayfest and Pilsen, Margarita Fest, Ravenswood, Manor Garage Sale. Make your way out. Get out and about. Don't stay stuck in. Henry and I were just talking about how busy and hot it was yesterday. I'm sure you guys all experienced it too. So get out and enjoy some things. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to dive right into some conversation around what's happening with medical cuts, healthcare, and other benefits. 773-763-9278 is the number, and that is the Credo mobile and text line here at WCPT. We'll be right back.
Check up on health with Chris Whitting.
Choosing the right exercise shoe is not as simple as it seems. Sports health foot and ankle expert Dr. James Safera from the Cleveland Clinic has the rundown on running shoes.
They usually have so many miles built into them, and when you use them, you have to be willing to get a new pair. It's very common for us to see people with foot problems who've been running in the same shoes for a long period of time.
Dr. Safera also has advice on walking shoes.
Especially if you're a brisk walker, let's face it, that's very similar to running. I usually recommend to my patients buying the running shoes, even if they're just walking.
And his suggestions for multi-purpose athletic shoes?
You want it to be stable. You don't want to usually be able to take an athletic shoe and kind of just bend it in half. You know, it should have some firmness, but also some flexibility to it. The more cushion, the better. I tell people on the bottom of the shoe as a shock absorption. Other than that, and I think there's a lot of good brands out there.
With Checkup on Health, I'm Chris Whitting.
This is WCPT 820. where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Okay, so as I said a moment ago, one of the things that came out of the clip that that we opened with is really about veterans and about benefits and about making sure we're taking care of the conversation of care. It just so happens to be that one of the things that Pete was talking about, excuse me, is being able to talk about that and more openly. Wendy Singer, No Shame on You, and the list goes on. But we tried to reach into that this week and speak to, when we could, the concerns around care and benefits being taken away from not just veterans, but all Americans. And unfortunately, the Republicans are doing their dead level best to take away benefits, and doing it in a way that's hurting. There's no group in America that's being spared, and this is why. Excuse me. This is why I'm not surprised, but it reflects on the fact that Republicans, the MAGA crowd, the GOP. The biggest lie that they told with this past election was about the economy, that it was really about the cost of groceries or the price of eggs or gas. No, it was built off of, we can't have a woman, we can't have a black woman that's not an openly Christian national privileged person as our candidate. That's what it was. It was, I'll use a golf analogy. I try to keep it in the fairway. Sometimes I'm on the left side of the fairway, the right side, and sometimes it's straight down the middle. The point I'm making is I'm going to go after MAGA every time I get a chance because they are a big part of why we're here. I'm also going to go after Democrats. You guys have heard me go after Democrats when they don't do the thing that we know that they should be doing to make our systems better. And sometimes I'm going to keep it right in the middle in terms of having some balance. But in this case, when it comes to this election, you guys know I've been very, very clear. We know that what was put in front of us, but at the end of the day, it came down to not electing a woman, a black woman, Southeast Asian woman that wasn't openly, genuflecting to men. That's what it was. Maybe those are not nice words in some people's minds, but I'm just going to call it as that as best I can each and every time I can, without letting go of the fact that, yes, Democratic messaging could be improved as we go forward. But her message was pretty damn good. So don't mix the two, guys, that want to make that have comments. The Democratic machine can get better. That's common sense. That's like saying, well, we all know that we should be striving to get better every single day. The Democratic machine has to take that same flavor. However, Vice President Harris's message was pretty doggone good. And a lot of people just didn't want to hear it. That's a fact. That's a reality. So when we talk about benefits, we talk about who's hurting benefits, who's not standing up for benefits for American people, American voters, American citizens. The Democratic Party is doing a better job. They are doing a perfect job. No one's saying that, but we are fully aware that the folks that are taking away right now, you're lying to yourselves, even if you are a progressive liberal Democrat, to say or to not acknowledge that the Republicans are the ones that are taking away the benefits. You're lying to yourself. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, how truthful am I being with myself about that topic? So that's one of the reasons why, and I'm not screaming at Democrats for anybody that wants to, go down that path. I'm saying, be honest with yourself. The Democratic leadership across the board are not taking away the benefits that are needed by American people, for all American people, Republicans, Democrats, and in between, left, right of the fairway, and down the middle. Okay? That's who's taking away those benefits. Republicans, MAGAs, GOP, on a state level as well as on a federal level. So to that end, let's talk about what some state and federal representatives have had to say recently about how those benefits are being taken away and how it's being, how harmful it is to the people who Republicans say they represent. So, Henry and I've got a few clips we put together. Let's go to our clip with Representative Kristen McDonald.
My husband and I have raised 6 kids, and I'm a former catechism teacher. So when we start this hearing with a prayer, it seemed right to me. And I spent a considerable time in my community volunteering, did a little bit of work with Meals on Wheels, and I was always the Friday delivery. And the reason I did the Friday delivery is because you didn't just deliver the meal of that day, you also delivered meals for the weekend. And that message that was embedded in me as I would over and over again go to seniors' homes who could not get out, they would ask me to put their weekend meal in the refrigerator. And I would open the refrigerator up, and the meal I was putting in there was the only thing inside. Because hunger is a very real thing. And for me, I'm Midwest practical. I'm Midwest common sense. When people are hungry, we feed them. We had a hearing right here in this room a couple of weeks ago about SNAP. There's some truths here that are not getting out. One is that the fraud rate in SNAP is less than 1%. The other truth that's really important to understand is that able-bodied adults are currently required to work. So are there error rates in the states? Sure. Should we address it? Absolutely. But the idea that we are going to find $300 billion of cuts, $300 billion of cuts on that small percentage of people who are not working that are already required to, or error rates in the states, is just a flat-out lie. What we are really doing is cutting food for people, and in my state, most of them are children. So this isn't about the great big beautiful bill. It's not about a balance sheet. It's not about the farmers. It's about the percentage of hungry children we are willing to tolerate in this country. The requirement that if you have a child in your house over the age of 7, that you have to work, even if that child is disabled, is cold. It is cruel. It is heartless. And it also tells me you've never talked to a family with a disabled child and what that does to a family. We are talking about $6 a day. So when we are sitting in a committee room representing the people that we represent that have brought us here, we cannot invoke the name of Jesus Christ and say we are doing his work when we are pulling food off the plates of children.
And she's right on point. In case you're wondering who that is, it's Michigan Representative Kristen McDonald-Rivette. She speaks clearly to that, and that's what I'm speaking about in terms of how the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party, on any level, on a state level, on a federal level, are taking away benefits, are pushing to pass a bill federally that will harm the livelihoods of people that are most in need. Yet they refer to themselves as a party that cares about the American people, the Christian party, the party that should be, beholden to a certain, dogma. That's not when we have tools that are in place or are there to represent and help Americans, and you want to take them away. That to me is one of the least American things. That's probably one of the least patriotic things that you could do. And turn around and call yourself a good Christian and show up in church on Sunday. But yet you've got people that you walk past in the pews that are suffering, but yet you want to take away benefits that are their safety net, and their safety net for survival, and they're in a situation like a lifestyle, or economically, I should say, not lifestyle, but their economic circumstances may not necessarily or exclusively be because of something that they did or their own fault. They may live in a community where the resources were stripped away and shipped to another part of the state or the city for that matter. But yet you, as a Republican Party and followers of the Republican Party, and those that are hypercritical of the Democratic Party, want to say that it's the Democrats' fault. That's not the Democrats' fault. Maybe the Democrats, not maybe, they could fight harder. I would agree with that. But let's stop just, forgetting that it's the Republicans that are taking away these benefits and these safety nets. There's no question about it. It's evidenced by the bill. You know, party line votes in many states, guys, in many, many states. Let's go, Henry, to our other clip. And this is one that you guys can find over at our Heartland Signal digital site if you want to check it out there. And this is of Minnesota State Senator Alice Mann.
We had negotiations with a party who does not care about the well-being of people, with a party who was willing to throw the entire state of Minnesota in disarray, to shut down the government, and in return for not doing that, they wanted to take away health care from 20,000 people. That was their priority. Their goal was to take away health care from people. And under the guise of fiscal responsibility. There is no fiscal responsibility when you do this. When we take away people's health care, they end up in the emergency department. It costs more money for everyone in the community. It costs hospitals more money. It puts our health care system in disarray. It makes our health care system weaker. Of course, families fall into poverty. So there is no fiscal, there is no economic argument to be made when we take away people's health care. So what they did was purely cruel. It was cruelty dressed as fiscal responsibility. There is no other outcome for when you take away people's health care. And this, I will say this again, was their number one priority. So what we have is a party who was willing to take away insulin from diabetics, inhalers from people with asthma, cancer treatment from people who just want a few more years with their children, all for political points, all for political gain, to say that we protected essentially homegrown Minnesotans. But all these other people who look different, who speak a different language, who have different customs, we do not care about them. We will not pay for them. We will not welcome them. And they can suffer, they can die, and we don't care. That's right. That's what happened today, and that's why we are here, because we are not going to let this go down. We are going to fight this till the very end. Every person who lives in Minnesota is a Minnesota resident. They are part of this economy. They contribute, they work, they raise their children, their kids go to school. They pay $220 million in taxes per year. That's right. And we're not going to let them sit, turn around, and die.
One Minnesota.
Right. One Minnesota.
Yes.
Those are the kinds of voices, guys. That's Minnesota State Senator Alice Mann. Check her out. That's a clip that you can get at Heartland. Each of these clips, if you want, I will send them to you. I will email them to you so that you can be reminded of the importance of us standing up for people, helping them carry their load. The country, the Republican Party is failing right now in this space, and they're running under the guise of caring about Americans and this boring, tired, almost cursed, Henry, this tired old story around the Republican Party is the party of the people, and the conservative party that's, about American values. One of our primary values should be caring for each other, which is why part of the reason why here on this show, I try very hard to embrace some sanity and what Mayor Johnson said 2 weeks ago, and that's some humanity. It doesn't change the fact that I'm going to get PO'd about a lot of things and bring some heat about a lot of things. But it's with the foundation of having care for our fellow human beings and having humanity be the thing that was one of our guiding, forces. Taking away tools to sustain a human being, it's awful. It's shameful. But yet the Republican Party is getting away with that. So I'm saying to us as progressive liberal Democrats across the country, we can criticize our Democratic leaders across the board, but we have to still prop them up to help them do better. I say this all the time. You might think it's because I believe it, or that maybe that's part of the reason I say it. But we can't spend so much energy going after our own that we fail to out what Republicans are doing on a day-to-day basis about caring for each other. It's irresponsible for us to spend so much time talking about how awful the Democratic messaging might be, which we know we have to work on. But if this is an example of walking and chewing gum at the same time, doggone it, we need to walk and chew gum on this, and that is we can be critical and complimentary and pushing our leaders. At the same time, we have to be more critical of the Republican Party across the board and the things that they're doing to harm everyday American citizens with these cuts. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
If you turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. 800-365-6303. That's 800-365-6303.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops, a high in the upper 80s. Windy southwest winds increase around 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusting as high as 45. For tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 54. Saturday, partial sunshine, breezy, high around 67 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 66.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives, welcome back. And yes, it's the Credo Mobile text and phone line, 773-763-9278. Check out credomobile.com. And today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Laura Fine, Illinois State Senator and Democratic candidate for Congress in the 9th District. She was with us at our... at Max and Bentley's at 20, if I recall. Was she there? Do I have that right? I hope I'm not wrong there. But check out Joan today. We'll be talking with Illinois State Senator Laura Fine. Patrick Hanley, head of the New Trier Democrats. Lisa Graves, founder and executive director of the True North Research, a national investigative watchdog group that works with journalists and other researchers to, shine a bright light on dark money. And Mark Turcott, Illinois poet laureate and distinguished writer in residence at DePaul University. Live, local, and progressive weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years. That's 2 decades, by the way. Tonight on Driving It Home, Ken Mejia Beal and Elliot Serrano will be filling in for Patty and her guest, Qasim Rashid. Human rights lawyer, author, and SiriusXM host, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. Weekdays, 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And then Saturday, the big picture. Edwin will be joined by David Graham, staff writer at The Atlantic and author of the project, How Project 25 is Reshaping America. You'll want to check this one out. Because the David Graham's work is pretty amazing. Nancy McLean, professor in the Department of History and the Sanford School of Public Policy at Duke University. That's the big picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Saturdays 1 to 4 p.m. here on WCPT. All right, we'll get to some of the other things as we go along because we have our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics podcast with us this morning. Good morning, Karen, and welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, Richard. Thank you so much for having me on again. You just keep, you keep opening the door, you keep answering the phone, so here I am.
There you go. So I I have to ask you a question, and it's with a tinge of sarcasm. It's been every week we say it's been a wacky week because it has been. But I want to ask you this question in all sincerity.
Mm-hmm.
In your last, visit to friends and family, and when you returned back to Chicago, did you, on the way out the door, leaving those friends and family, did you happen to, did they gift you with like a $400 million plane?
It's funny you bring that up because no. They never did. I have never accepted a bribe. I have to say, maybe, a bribe, like I could see like my dad, saying like, oh, I'm going to take you to the penny candy store after you guys help me clean my office. Things like that. So I guess, is that a bribe?
That was teaching some responsibility. Yeah. I get that. Our parents did that. And we as parents or aunts and uncles, we do certain things with our nieces and nephews and children's to, we pull them a deal. Right.
Bribes
we
here and there.
Every now and then. But it's to kind of teach a lesson. It's not to get access to the bigger candy store that you have, down in the basement.
No, and the Qatari government, the military, gifted the big toddler, the big baby that's occupying the White House, a $400 million jet that is going to require over $1 billion. Some estimates are saying over $1 billion taxpayer dollars. To be used in order to strip it down and make it
safe
as far as not being full of bugs.
Well, and all the other things that go with this. Everybody's heard about this week, and Karen and I are making light of it for a reason, but to a point. And that is, first of all, I go back to something that Eric Grant and I talk about a lot. And you and I do too, Karen, in many cases. It's like, let's just do the simple, the easy thing. The easy thing actually would have been for him to say, in the environment we're in right now, Qatari government, /military, we don't need the plane. Thank you for the offer. And I know that there's some people that are on the right that are listening to this show that are saying, they want to do one of two things, Karen. They want to say, but he did that to get the deal over here to happen. He didn't need to do that to get the deal over here to happen, first of all. The second comment that I'm hearing from maggots on, and yes, I'm calling them maggots, because if you're still following this garbage, then that's what you've ascended to. You've made a decision now about your actions. But the second thing is they're saying they're doing the whataboutisms. But there is no whataboutism with the last three Democratic presidents that fits into this category. There is nothing that Joe Biden did, Barack Obama did, or Bill Clinton did on this level. And there's clips that have come out.
At any level, let's be really clear. At any level, they were completely above board. But to that point, if you ask them the question, if Biden did this, if Obama did this, if Hillary did this, if any Democratic president did this, what would their reaction be? What would the Republicans be doing right now if that was Joe Biden?
Yeah. And what would the media be doing about it rather than sort of kind of coddling the situation? This is once again, and you talk about this a lot in your guest calls to Stephanie Miller's show. You talk about this a lot on your podcast. You've talked about it a lot here on Choose Views, that the mainstream media is dragging their you-know-what when it comes to accurately, it's not even a question of accuracy, when it comes to repeatedly and honestly reporting on Trump's badisms, his awfulness. This is a great example of how they've just kind of let this sort of slide by and tried to weasel in that it's kind of, it's kind of okay. It's not that bad. It's not the worst thing in the world. But it is, and optically it is, but also from a purely, the legal part of it, and how much more of our government is up for sale, and that mainstream media isn't talking about this, not in the way that they should, And that's part that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm sorry. No, I mean, and that is the important thing to say. That this is not for us. This is for him. This is his ego. And the alarming thing, and the thing that the media is completely missing, is that this man has a price tag. This man has put a price tag on us, on this country.
Yep.
And the Republican Party, every single Republican is openly going along with this.
Yeah.
That is the story. That is the story, that they are open for business. They are open to be bribed. In plain view. And that is not transparency.
No.
That is abuse of power. That is also, I blame the Supreme Court that granted him immunity. But it is on the shoulders of every single one of those MFing Republicans sitting in Congress doing nothing to stop this. Nothing. We can talk about Democrats, and we can talk about, and I mean, I had somebody say, to ask me, why aren't Democrats doing X, Y, Z? Why aren't they doing more to stop him? Why are they saying things like we need to get woke out of our party message? Okay. You and I have had that conversation. Democratic leadership are not saying those things. Democratic leadership and all of the people that you like that woman that you just played, Alice Mann, the people that I just heard on the tail end of the Rick Smith show, Richard Ojeda.
Yeah,
okay, Ojeda. Those guys, those people, and AOC and Jasmine Crockett and Tim Walz and on and on and on. We have so many wonderful examples of Democrats that are out there speaking plainly, messaging correctly, in their actions fighting against this, in Congress, in hearings, in town halls, every step of the way. Where's the media?
Yep. They should be. Listen, here's the story, Karen. So for those who are complaining that we aren't, as Democrats, speaking loudly enough, or that the Democratic elected officials aren't speaking loudly enough, I want to ask those same people, whether those people are on the right, on the left, or in the middle, I want to ask them, why are you not asking the mainstream media? Why are you not covering what the Democrats are saying more readily? So, for example, when someone comes to you or me, however they come to us, on air, online, wherever, however, and say, well, why aren't the Democrats doing more about to stop all this? I want to ask that person, why aren't you asking the mainstream media, why are they not covering all of the Democrats that are speaking up? Why are they not running every single day the counter argument, which is Republicans aren't saying a damn thing? So this is where individuals, and I'm fired up about this because, I think I have to be responsibly wise. Why are not individuals taking greater responsibility for their destiny when it comes to this stuff? Why are they not? Which is one of the reasons, and you are a big proponent of this, pick up the phone, pick up a pen, pick up your keyboard, and reach out to your elected officials and ones that are not ones you voted for. Because that's where they need to fight, to send their anger and their ire, not at the voices that are trying to pull folks into the fight. Contact two groups of people: your elected officials that are voting for this garbage or sitting with on their hands, and contact the mainstream media, locally and national media, to say, doggone it, why aren't you all doing a better job?
Right into local papers.
Yes.
Your local papers, write your opinion piece and send it into your local paper.
Karen, how about this one? How about this one, to go on with your point? Rather than being a keyboard warrior and getting upset with people who are in this progressive fight, how about being a keyboard warrior and getting upset with the people sending, like Karen just said, send an op-ed to your local media outlets, whatever it might be. How about that?
Yeah. Right. Something, little things like that. I picked up the phone and I was actually shocked to get through to Lindsey Graham's staffer.
There you go.
And I was shocked, though, I have to say, because I've never, ever been able to get through. But I said, and I acted I was very concerned, and I am. But full disclosure, I am not a constituent of South Carolina. However, I am a very concerned constituent in Illinois that is listening to Stephen Miller propose, doing away with habeas corpus, with due process. And I know I have admired Lindsey Graham for such a long time, as being a warrior, to uphold and defend and protect the Constitution. And I am very concerned about this. Is he going to come out and make a statement? And of course, she was like, "Well, I can't really speak to that, but you can check on his social media, and he'll be coming out with a message shortly." But the point is, it's like picking up the phone, and even if you think it's going to get you nowhere, pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
They need to have their phone lines flooded.
Yeah.
About this stuff.
It's and here's another, I guess, something I said earlier in the week about the plane. I said, everybody, let's not get distracted. Again, focus, and not get distracted. But I just kind of broke it down and said, so if this plane is going to cost X amount of money to retrofit and do what needs to be done to make sure that it's right, then why would we even think about spending? Henry's shaking his head even before I even get it out of my mouth. If it's going to cost that much money, and let's say it's $1 billion over 4 years, so that's $250 million a year. Mm-hmm. Why don't we put that money? It was coming from somewhere. It ain't coming out of Trump's pocket. It's coming out of taxpayer dollars. But nobody's being and moaning. I don't use that word on the air, but you know what I'm saying. Then why aren't people moaning and grousing about that? If it's for the 4 years that he's going to be in office, this is the responsibility. Let me put it this way and get your thoughts. The Republicans should be positioning it that way as a conversation around budget mindfulness and budget consciousness, but they're not. Mm-hmm. And that's a failure of the Republican Party, not a failure of the Democratic Party. It's just not, because the Democrats are speaking to it. The Republicans are the ones sitting on their hands. Spread that $1 billion out over 4 years and look how many people's lives would be impacted by it. But no, MAGA said, nope, we can't have a black woman as president because she's gonna wreck things, and she's gonna. But look at what's happening, 118 days, is it, Karen? 118 days.
Yeah. And everything in Project 2025, they are just checking through the boxes of everything that they want to get accomplished. Yeah. And we are literally, in the first, 200 days. Yeah. Of this. And it's crazy. But but there is some hope, and there is some, we can't despair. We cannot feel hopeless. And so there are opportunities. There's going to be a protest at the sorting center in Forest Park tomorrow. I have to look at the time again. I think it's 10 to 12. I'll double check that. And I'll send it to you, Richard. But then on Sunday, there is Hands Across Chicago. There's going to be a physical chain of human bodies from Aurora all the way to Chicago, and that's happening on Sunday from noon until 2 o'clock. I can also send that to you if people want to sign up. Based off of your zip code, you'll be assigned a spot. And write into your editors, write opinion pieces about what's going on. We have to journal this. We have to document everything that is going on. And if you will indulge me for a moment, I have to brag a little bit.
Okay.
I have an amazing stepmother. Her name is Ellen Aldridge Bell, and she came into my life at a time when I really desperately needed her. She has been an amazing stepmother, friend, and mentor for me. She has always let me know that my feelings matter, that my voice matters, and she's a great writer. She's written a number of children's books, and she's taught in the Oak Park Elementary School system for decades, for 34 years. And so she wrote this poem, and she submitted it to the Wednesday Journal here in Oak Park. It's called Disappearing, and it goes like this. Keep truth alive. Tell your story of the capture while sleeping in your home, or in your sacred holy place, or in the fortress where you learn and do research, or outside your car as your children sit in the back seat. Tell of being bullied. Tell of your fear. Tell of their disrespect. Tell of their othering you. Tell of detention. Tell of detainment. Do not disappear. Speak the truth as you march, as you write or paint or draw. Hold high your sign. Love trumps hate. Sing chants, pound drums, clap hands, stomp feet. Do not go silent. Do not disappear. Quiet not your story, your writings, your music, your art, your voice. Quieting truth ensures we disappear. Do not, my friends, disappear.
Fantastic, beautiful, heartfelt, and one of those poems that's inspiring all at the same time. Give her name again, Karen, if you will, before we wrap up.
Her name is Ellie Aldridge Bell.
Ellie Aldridge Bell. Mama Bell. There you go.
Mama Bell. Mm-hmm.
Karen, always great to have you on the show, whether you're here in the studio or we're talking to you remotely. But because you are one of those shining lights that we all need to reflect and to have in our lives and reflect out to others. So thanks for being with us as always. We got lots of work to do, but let's stay empowered and strong about it so that we can draw more people to that light. So great to be with you. Great to have you with us this morning, as always.
Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate it, and thank you for letting me share that with you.
Absolutely.
And your listeners.
Absolutely.
All right.
Karen. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. You do the same.
All right. Love you guys. Love you, Henry. Bye.
Bye, Karen. Henry's getting some love. All right, guys. Let's take a tiny break, a little quick break so I can get a sip of coffee. When we come back, we've got a couple things I want to share with you before we get to the top of the hour. So let's do that, Henry. 773-763-9278. Credo Mobile and text line. That's what it is. We'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, men of all races across the country volunteered to join the fight, despite the United States Army being heavily segregated. Black enlistees were mostly assigned to combat support roles. But this did not stop Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, who knew of the racism and pushed his soldiers to achieve excellence. The 761st Tank Battalion was formed in the spring of 1942. It contained 30 black officers, 6 white officers, and 676 enlisted men. The unit donned the nickname the Black Panthers, wearing patches on their uniforms with a panther on it and the slogan, "Come Out Fighting." And in 1944, the 761st was assigned to General George Patton's Third Army in France. General Patton gave a colorful speech to his crew, and the Black Panthers became the first African-American tank squad in World War II. And by the end of the war, the Black Panthers had fought further east than every other United States unit, receiving 391 decorations for their heroism.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to the show. Glad to be with you. Friday, wow, Karen, all the good stuff that we do on Fridays, things are doing around the Chicagoland area. And, I'll say this to those that are not in Chicago. If there's things going on in your community, check those things out. Get out and about. Don't just stay stuck in the house. Try to get yourselves outside of the craziness that we're dealing with. Okay. Where do I want to go? Let's grab a quick call. Let's go to George. Good morning, George. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning, Richard. So last night I'm listening to the Mark Levin show during the 7 p.m. hour on WLS. right-wing radio flagship.
Yep.
And he's talking about how, the Iran nuclear program is coming along and the problems with it. And then also the subject of hostage releases of Israelis was being conducted. And then he goes back to the Reagan days, how Reagan got, after 450 some odd days, was able to get U.S. hostages, American hostages, released from Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, yeah, the Iranians released the hostages because they were afraid of Ronald Reagan. Now, Richard, okay, and I'm listening to that. Richard, can you tell me what was wrong with that?
Well, a lot of the reason that they want to erase history is that it doesn't tell the story, certainly not the entirety of a story. And so a lot of people have just simply forgotten what Reagan actually did with that transition and how he was able to stall the release during the election, which would have favored, at the time, President Carter. So I don't...
Yes. And Richard, see, that's the point of it. And what happened is, because Reagan then sold weapons to Iran, didn't he, in exchange for the hostages? Isn't that correct?
Well, that was the lead up to what was that was the promise that back channeled through, at the time, George Bush. I always say Bush 1. He was working with the Iranian government behind the scenes to hold off on the release of the hostages. The history, as I understand it, and as I've read it, and we're kind of got to get to the top of the hour, George, is and this is something that a lot of people should do. They should really go back and look at the Iran-Contra affair and look at what Bush 1 was doing behind the scenes in the lead up to that election in 1980, and how they worked hard to stall the release of the hostages because they knew that it would give President Carter a bump in the polls. And so they back-channeled a lot of that effort, and they were able to do it. And then during the Iran-Contra affair, some of it came out. But really what came out is, to your point, George, and that's the sale of weapons was what was going to be the exchange for not releasing the hostages prior to the actual election date or during that summer of 1980. So that's really what went down. So this is where history is important. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Here's my point. Because then the right-wing constituency, his audience, they listened to this. They believed this. Oh, yeah, Ronnie was the muscle man, but there were weapons involved, exchange of weapons for hostages. And that's why the right-wing constituency continues to vote for the right-wing politicians who are stabbing him in the back, helping to destroy this country, and that's part of the problem. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, you're right. And we got and we've got another scenario where that's why this plane deal with Trump, we have to be a little bit more eyes open as to what's really going on there and what he's really trying to do when it comes to arming some of the folks in the Middle East. So, all right, George, thanks for that kind of quick reminder and about right-wing propaganda. We got to hit this the top of the hour break. The number is 773-763-9278. That's the Credo mobile and text line here at WCPT. We'll be right back.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Save big money on your entire roofing project at Menards. Your roof is the first line of defense against the elements and represents up to 40% of your home's exterior. Owens Corning Architectural Shingles offer ultimate protection and impressive curb appeal. Choose from over 40 options and save big money on all Owens Corning shingles now at Menards. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. President Trump has boarded Air Force One in Abu Dhabi after ending his Mideast trip. Speaking to reporters before takeoff, he said the U.S. had given Iran a proposed agreement. It was the first public acknowledgement of a significant development in negotiations over Tehran's nuclear program, but he did not give specifics. At least 82 people were killed by Israeli airstrikes in Gaza on Friday. There had been hope that Trump's trip in the Mideast could usher in a ceasefire or renewal of humanitarian aid to Gaza. An Israeli official said Friday strikes were preparatory actions ahead of a larger operation meant to pressure Hamas to release hostages. The official spoke on condition of anonymity. Speaking to reporters earlier on Friday at a business forum in Abu Dhabi, Trump made a rare acknowledgement of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and says he's looking to resolve a range of global crises.
And we're looking at Gaza, and we got to get that taken care of. A lot of people are starving. A lot of people there's a lot of bad things going on.
Florida communities that have been adding fluoride to drinking water will now have to stop.
Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a measure that bans local state governments from adding fluoride to their water systems.
Yes, use fluoride for your teeth, that's fine. But forcing it into the water supply is basically forced medication on people. They don't have a choice. You're taking that away from them.
Fluoride has been added to drinking water for generations to strengthen teeth and reduce cavities. But some Republican-led states have been pushing to ban fluoride in tap water, following a push by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to do so. Some local governments in Florida already voted to remove fluoride from their water ahead of the statewide ban. I'm Donna Warder.
New Jersey Transit commuter train engineers have gone on strike Friday in a dispute over wages. The walkout affects about 350,000 commuters in New Jersey and New York City. It's the state's first transit strike in more than 40 years. This is AP News. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports the Philippine Senate race on May 12th was a blow to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he feuds with Vice President Sara Duterte.
Philippines VP Sara Duterte greets supporters on May 12 as she arrives at a polling station ahead of the country's midterm elections. Now key allies of her father, detained former President Rodrigo Duterte, and two Liberal opposition candidates are among top winners in the May 12 race, according to official results released on Friday. The midterm election outcome has provided unexpectedly strong backing for Duterte and boosted his daughter ahead of her impeachment trial in the Senate in July. The election also was a blow to President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s administration, whose candidates did not do as well as expected in the midterm polls, when the president's influence is usually strong, analysts say. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops, a high in the upper 80s. Windy southwest winds increase around 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusting as high as 45. For tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 54. Saturday, partial sunshine, breezy, high around 67 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 66.
The cost of mesothelioma treatments can exceed $400,000, and families often face losing their homes and life savings just to pay the bill. The Rights and Claims Department of Flint Cooper has helped victims secure financial support they need to pay for their care and ensure their family's future. If you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma and don't have legal representation, call Flint Cooper now at 800-606-8169. Time is running out for you to file a claim, so don't wait. Call 800-606-8169 for a free consultation.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
Hey, guys. Welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Thanks for being with us this morning. That is the Credo mobile and text line that we refer to as our 773-763-9278 number. It's Friday. Weekend's here. Everybody loves the weekend. Well, I mean, I be careful there and say everybody loves the weekend. I think everybody loves the weekend, or at least the ramp up to the weekend. Hopefully. I mean, and so there you go. All right. With it being Friday, we have a guest with us this morning that's been with us before and is one of those other voices that has posted some really great things over the years. But most recently, his voice has really been heard. And he's been on our show before, by the way, in talking about how we can improve across the board and who do we defend and who do we not defend. And with us this morning is Professor of Politics at New England College, Nathan Shrader. Good morning, Doc. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm great. As you said, it's Friday and it's also baseball season, so there's a lot to look forward to over the weekend, having some time to watch some baseball games. And I'm actually traveling through Louisiana and Mississippi right now, attending some law school graduations of former students of mine.
Well, look at you giving back to the students that had the time to sit in your class and listen. How about that? How cool.
Well, I made a promise when they started 3 years ago that wherever I was, I'd be there when they graduated, and I got to keep my promise.
Way to go. Well, gosh, there is so much going on, as always. It's great to have you with us. Take a half a second, Dr. Shrader, and just let folks know a little bit about your background, what you've been doing, and then we'll get into a couple of topics.
Yeah, my name is Nathan Shrader. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've worked in politics all over the state of Pennsylvania and other parts of the Northeast. I worked for Governor Ed Rendell in Pennsylvania in his first term. Worked as an aide in the Pennsylvania Senate, the Virginia House of Delegates, did my PhD work on local school board politics at Temple University in Philadelphia, and have done lots of other things in between in the political arena. And I've been teaching here at New England College in beautiful Henniker, New Hampshire, for the last 3 years. And New Hampshire is a fun place for politics because the deep level of civic engagement I found in this state. It is not just when it comes to the presidential elections, like people think. It's the whole way down to the state and the local and the town elections here. People are very invested in it. I think it's a healthy thing to see, given what we see in some other parts of the country where people are not as active in politics.
So. Tell us what's your reasoning, or not your reasoning, what do you think the reasoning is, and then maybe your opinion and observation of why it is so deep and so rooted and so involved. Is it geographical history in terms of the country? I don't want to taint your response, but why do you think it is, and what's your opinion about that?
No, that's a fantastic question. I actually think a big part of it comes down to, of course, it goes back to kind of the traditions of the state here, go back a long time. But also because in the state of New Hampshire, there are so many small towns, and there are. I live in Manchester, which is the biggest city in the state. And there are only a handful of cities in the state. And compared to other states in the Northeast, the populations are just not anywhere comparable to what we have in other parts of the Northeast. So because I think the towns are smaller, people have an opportunity here in this state to engage in something called town meeting, where each year the people in the villages and the towns come together and propose their own legislation and their own policy ideas for their town, and they get to vote on those things. It's not just there's a form of direct democracy. I don't think it would work everywhere, but in a state with so many small towns and local governments, it seems to work. And I'm not advocating for that to happen everywhere, because it would just be impossible in larger communities. Because in Manchester, where I live, we don't have that, but we do have an active sort of set in your whatever ward you live in. Your legislators hold ward meetings. I just moderated one of those 2 weeks ago for we have multi-member state house districts, so I moderated one of those for 3 of our state house members in my ward, and it just has this kind of culture of engagement. And again, it can't be replicated everywhere, I don't think, but it's just one of those things that makes it a unique place to study politics.
So when you've gone to that point about it won't necessarily be workable in other states, some of that is just the sheer size of a state.
That's right.
It just doesn't. There's not a way to get one's arms around that to make it work. California would be a great example. Pennsylvania, which is one of it's just your baseline state. It wouldn't work there. But the idea, the concept of, and when I thought about this when you were describing it. Ground up legislation, ground up ideas and political conversation is a part of what every community should have. And I'll give you an example. Like here in Chicago, we have our ward systems. And, I live in a certain ward. You live in a different ward. You know how it works here in Chicago. You know how things go down here. And so for me to drive down the street, I can pull into the parking lot at my ward person's office and go in the door and say, hey, this is what's happening and this is what's going on and we need X, Y, Z. This is, in New Hampshire, that's just a statewide version of what we do in a big old city like Chicago. Fair statement or no?
That's a very fair statement. And so I'm going to put my Center for Civic Engagement director hat on for a minute. This is why I would tell your listeners and anybody that is anyone out there, it doesn't matter where you live. You still can have that. You still have that opportunity to project some your view, your points of view as a citizen. Whether it's going to, like maybe in New Hampshire, your town of 1,000 people has this annual town meeting where you can go and debate your neighbors and then vote on the town budget, which they do. Or like you're saying, when I lived in Philadelphia, very similar thing. You've got in each political party in Philadelphia, and I think Chicago is the same way, has the ward leaders where you can, if you have an issue with the local representatives within your party, you can go to your party ward leader and they take it up the chain to the elected officials, or you can go straight to your elected official. It doesn't have to just be one way or the other. And this is an area where I believe Americans have been conditioned to think at times that their voice doesn't count. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm not going to argue that in some cases your opinion or mine may have very little influence on, say, what's happening in like international affairs. Like we're far removed from that, but the things happening like in our community, in our town, in our county, in our district, in our state, those are the places where we have the most opportunity to exercise our voice. And I tell my students this frequently. We all focus on what's going on in D.C. because it's just it's splashy and it's all over the news all the time. And that's important, but when there's some crisis in your community, you're not going to call the White House switchboard and try to leave a message to the president. You're going to call your city council, your alderman, your school board member, your municipal officials. And I use this example with my students. When I lived in Philly, it was a hot summer week, and the garbage collectors just happened. I lived on a one-way narrow street in the city, and they missed our street. It was just an accident, and I kept calling the sanitation department. I couldn't get anybody. So what did I do? I called my city councilman's office, and I just said, "Look," and Richard, maybe you'll appreciate this, given what you're in Chicago and you know how politics works. I said, "Well, look, I live on this block, and my neighbors and I said, and we all are registered voters." And it was true, and because I went around to my neighbors and that we were all registered, but I said, well. The councilman should just know, there was a mistake here. We don't blame anybody for it. We just want it's 100 degrees out and trash has been out on the sidewalk for 6 days. And then within 2 hours, the sanitation department came out, and it was just like, I didn't view that as like a coercive thing. It was just telling them the truth. Like, we're registered voters. We have a voice in the city, and you're our councilman in their office, and you're the only ones that could get this done. And they were responsive. So it's like, it just is to me a way that if they know you're a registered and active voter and your neighbors are too, they're going to listen.
Well, you're absolutely right. We're talking with Dr. Nathan Shrader, Associate Professor of Politics, Chair of the Department of Politics at New England College, and just a real cool, fun, plugged-in dude that makes sure that his students know that he's still got their back when they graduate. How about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So to your point, and we'll make a little bit of a pivot and tie this to something on the national level, and that's related to the views of the two different parties right now. You know, the party in power always is going to be favored by the voters of the party in power, and less favored by the people that didn't vote for them. I mean, that's just kind of the nature of the beast of where we are. And that even is a local thing. I mean, the local, you know, if you in a city like Chicago, there's folks that hate on Mayor Johnson because they didn't get the guy or person that they wanted. They hated on the previous mayor because they didn't get the person that they wanted, or that they're not doing the thing that they ran on. So that's always going to be the case. But right now, you were talking about this recently in one of your posts as it relates to the Democratic pessimism about the Democratic Party. I know we'll talk about this for a brief moment, but from an optimistic standpoint, what do you see are the opportunities and the tools that the Democratic Party on a national level, I mean, we just talked about local politics, but on a national level can do? Obviously, they're not the ones that are in power, so that's part of the problem or part of the reality. But some of the things that, if you were to say, Richard, here are two things that they right now, I think, as a professor of politics, the Democratic Party should be mindful of as they're moving forward at this point. Excuse me.
And all this is driven by this poll that I thought kind of flew under the radar a little bit from the AP and the NORC Center that came out a week ago. Only a third of Democrats are optimistic about their own party, which is down from about 6 in 10 a year ago at this point. And as far as the national public, it is about 4 in 10 of American voters have a favorable opinion of the GOP, only a third of the Democrats. So some Democrats kind of see that and they hit the panic button. I would advocate the opposite. This is not something to panic over. This is the time to seize the moment, right? This is the chance to go through sort of a rebranding phase. And I've done some research and had some pieces published, academic pieces published over the years in the area of political marketing. And this branding opportunity, it's sort of like if you and your listeners can think about when Coca-Cola or Apple or Burger King. I'm not trying to compare our politics. I hate to make it sound like I'm comparing our politics just to like corporations. That's not what I'm trying to do. But when those brands have some sort of trouble or risk, they don't just keep moving on the same path that they've been on. They undergo an extensive rebranding process to find out, you know, what is appealing to the consumers, what isn't, or if they're in the middle of a crisis, what's triggered that crisis, how do we mitigate it, then what do we do to move past it? And this is where the Democrats seem to be a little stuck, to me, is there is a crisis. They lost to Donald Trump, and the Republicans have the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court. And the longer Donald Trump is there as president, the Republicans will have more federal judges on the lower federal courts that he'll be appointing. So there is a reason to be concerned there, absolutely. But I'm saying this is not a moment to panic. Democrats have there is energy right now that exists in the activist base of the Democratic Party that was not. It should have been more palpable in the 2024 cycle, but it wasn't. But it's there now, and I think the Democrats have to get back to their roots and listen to the people who are out in the streets. The people they rely on to every election cycle to go to do their knock on the doors, to make all the phone calls, do the text banks. Like those are the people who are going to lead the party back. It's not going to be the donor base. It's going to be the actual grassroots base, and they'll listen to them. They're showing up at the town halls, right? And I actually think one of the things that I really like what some of the Democratic congressional officials are doing now. You've got some of them, including Governor Walz in Minnesota, showing up in Republican districts where the Republican members are in hiding and holding town halls because the Republicans refuse to. That is something. That's an actual, to me, Doc, a really powerful thing. They're out there.
I got to tell you, I've been saying that since the election and certainly since the inauguration, at every single Democratic elected official across the board, whether it be in a state legislature or on a federal level, or a state leader like a governor should be going into the backyards of every single Republican and telling the story. It starts right there. This is why I wanted to ask you this question, to merge it with the Granite State's way of doing politics, is go into the backyards, go in the front door, if you end up in the backyard, of a Republican in the district next to you as a Democrat and say, they aren't getting a job done for you. And then, this is what you were saying. You were talking about branding and a little bit about messaging. The Democrats, I don't think the Democratic message was bad or wrong. I think it wasn't presented heavily enough in the right way to the right people. And that's different than it being wrong message, which is what a lot of people are saying. The Democratic message was wrong. No, it wasn't wrong. It wasn't energized enough to the right people at the right time. Now, people might say that's just word salad. No, it's not. Let me tell you why. Not you, Doc. Because we're sitting in the same spot on this. I think what would be really smart right now, continue with the go to the Republican districts across the board. Do what those leaders are doing now. At the same time, they need to break down, maybe pick 3 things, maybe 6 things that the Democrats do extremely well for the American community. And keep highlighting how make the compare and contrast argument. Here's what Republicans are doing by letting XYZ happen. Here's what we do differently and why it impacts you this way. Because that's what I believe everyday people want to hear. Oh, there's a difference, and then this is how it impacts my life. I don't know if that's crazy, but I think more people want to hear that compare and contrast, and then here's how it's going to impact my life. And there's so much that the Republicans are giving us right now that the Dems have got to just scoop that up and use it.
Yeah. No, and Richard, is part of what I would say this rebranding effort, which to me includes the messaging, the marketing, the promotion of the party. I would actually take, if I were Ken Martin and the DNC leadership right now, I would take the Democratic Party logo and change it to a donkey with boxing gloves on.
Oh,
and
that's right, up on its rear heel, on its rear 2 legs.
Up on its rear, yes. And I'm not an artist, graphic artist, so I have a vision of what this would look like. But up on its legs with the boxing gloves on, ready to go fight. And what are they going to fight for? Paid family leave.
Yep.
Supporting expansion of in the states that don't have it, the expansion of Obamacare, protecting Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and I think most importantly, because it resonates with voters right in their backyards, making sure that schools remain as high quality as they are, whether it's in Chicago or in Manchester, New Hampshire, that these are the kind of things I think that resonate. It's what I've heard of Republicans say this for the last years now. They talk about kitchen table issues, the issues that keep people, and Republicans just are better on even though I think their messages,
but not delivering. That's the thing. Doc, they are, but they don't do. They don't deliver. Nope. They end up taking away from that in each of those 3 things you just listed.
So they do, and that's why I think the Democrats have to own or retake those kitchen table issues, because I go back to one of the things that my favorite quotes in politics of all time, one of my favorite political figures of all time is Hubert Humphrey. You know, and remember he had said in his convention speech, and this wasn't the year he was nominated, this was the year Jimmy Carter was nominated. Hubert Humphrey spoke that year. I don't remember if he was the keynote or not, but he had made a comment about how the Democratic Party believes that the test is how the government treats those in the dawn of life, the twilight of life, and the shadows of life. And I think that had long been part of the Democratic Party's brand, right? And it's kind of slipped away from that. And doing things like fighting on paid family leave and the social safety net. No, it's not welfare. It's a social safety net. Right. And the Democrats just don't explain that very well as they used to. And they've let the Republicans have the high ground on what I was calling the kitchen table issues. Even as you correctly said, the Republicans do the exact opposite of what they claim they're going to do on those kitchen table issues. So I just see this as an opportunity not to panic, but to rebrand, re-envision how the Democratic Party talks about its core values, because the public I don't believe will respond favorably if they don't believe the party has deep core values.
One of the things that I've said, and I've used this phrase, and some people don't like that I use it, and that is it can't be just that the Republicans are stinky. It has to be Republicans are stinky.
That's right.
It has to be Republicans are stinky, meaning the elected officials. And again, we're having fun with language. So people out there who are getting their undies in a bundle, calm down. But Republicans are stinky. But that's not just good enough for you as American people. Here's why we are better for you as Democrats. It has to be, because they're not identify that they're stinky.
It's got to be.
It's got to be both. They're stinky, and here's why we smell better, and why you want to be part of the group that smells better. And that's oversimplifying it. I get that. But that's part of, I think, of what we're both saying, which is we can't be so arrogant to think that ain't nothing wrong with what we're doing as a Democratic Party. There are things. But at the same time, we can't bash ourselves to death and not get a doggone thing done. So we take both, adjust, and now take that and go forward. And it's just like any successful sports team, talking about baseball, will do if they're not getting it done in the ninth inning. So there you go. How about that one, Doc?
Well, so I'm going to tie this back to something you said a little while ago about making that clear comparison, right? Here's where the Democrats are. Here's where the Republicans are. Back when I was doing more sort of advising for candidates running for local offices or legislative offices prior to my current career, I always found one of the most effective types of campaign material were the very clear-cut, what they call comparison pieces, right? Mm-hmm. Here's my picture with my values underneath, and here's how my opponent, and here's what they value in these different areas, whether it's public schools and healthcare, and just there doesn't have to be a lot of, say, PR around it. It is what it is, right? You present it in a eye-catching way, and you just let people say, well, look, this candidate favors, maintaining the tax base for the local schools. This one wants to decimate it. It just show them side by side and let the people make up their mind that way. And that's where I'm seeing it. It's more. It's as you're saying. Trump is everything is he's bad and his party's batting up bad ideas. And then instead of saying, well, but here's what we believe instead, and let me tell you how we're going to get it done. It's become and I'm not saying Trump isn't bad. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is the message has got to also be they're wrong, but we're right, and here's why. And that's what I just don't see presented in a digestible way right now.
And that's an opportunity. Again, this is not let's slam the Democratic Party, the part. We have to identify and say, okay, great. Now let's retrofit that and take it forward. And from a messaging standpoint, let people know this is the reason this is how it's going to positively impact your life. So, Dr. Nathan Shrader, man, what a great morning to chat with you. You're right. It is baseball season, and it's outdoor season for those of us that live in the North and the Northeast and the Central Midwest. So we are always excited about the good weather and the good weekends. What else is going on in your world? And give us a quick wrap up in terms of how people can follow and find you.
Yeah, well, look, I would encourage people to follow me on. You can find me at Nathan R. Shrader on Twitter, and I'm on Blue Sky as well. But if you also want to follow what we're doing in the New England College Politics program, we are our Center for Civic Engagement. You can Google NEC Civic Engagement or NEC Politics go to X and find us on there, or you can Google us and find us there and see some of the things that we're doing. We're putting together our plans for when the students return in the next semester. In fact, your Governor Pritzker, was just here in New Hampshire 2-3 weeks ago and spoke to a crowd of 800 people in Manchester. And we're hoping to get him to our campus in the fall semester to do a town hall meeting. So that's one of the things we're hoping to work on this summer. And he had a huge response when he was in Manchester. I'm not sure how much coverage it got back home where you are, but the crowd size, to draw out 800 people on a Sunday night in New Hampshire, that's a big deal.
Well, let me tell you. Let me say two things to that. First of all, it's been a big deal, and it's been talked about a lot. And mainstream media was forced to their hand was forced to talk about it because the question became, is he running? So that did make some national coverage, or get some national coverage. Back here in Illinois, or I should say here in Illinois, it's definitely been resonating because he's the first governor that came out after the election and said to Donald Trump and to the administration, you come from my people, you got to come through me. And he has been very stout in that message. So it's exciting to hear that someone local has heard and seen what he's talking about, because that is the message that you and I spoke of a moment ago that needs to be the national message for our Democratic Party. The other part is I'll see what I can do as it relates to passing that message on to the lieutenant governor's office, because she's been on our show to let her know that there's some logs burning in New Hampshire about the governor coming there and potentially doing that again. So I will do my part to see what I can.
Well, thank you. And luckily, I was able to take a few students to hear him that night, and they really went in kind of skeptical, because they're like, "Here's this guy from that they didn't know much about. And they saw he's kind of from the upper class, and they're like, we don't know if we'll connect with this guy." And then they all waited in line to go meet him after, because they were so intrigued by his.
He's the real deal,
and that he was, and unlike other people who might be running in the future, like he actually showed he showed a willingness to fight, and I think that's what they were hoping to see.
Yeah, he definitely is that guy, and we're so proud of him here in Illinois. So thank you for recognizing that, Doc. Listen, we're going to have you back because this is we agree on a lot, but we also recognize we've got to look at ourselves. We've got to kind of open up our shirt and go, there's some things we can do better. So I appreciate you being with us, Dr. Shrader. I know you're out there in the field doing stuff and taking care of your former students, and kudos to you for that. But thanks for being with us. It's been a joy to have you with us on the show again, and we look forward to doing it again sooner than later. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. I really appreciate you having me, and greetings to everyone there in Chicagoland. I'm glad to be able to spend some time with you.
Thanks, Dr. Shrader. We appreciate it. Be safe. Have a great weekend and enjoy your baseball games.
All right. You too, Richard. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye now. Henry, you're getting some shout-outs too today, but we got to take a break, man. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and this is the Credo Mobile Text and Phone Line. We'll be right back, guys. Hey, progressives. This is Richard Chu, host of Choose Views here on WCPT AM 820, 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have some real challenges in front of us as a country. Since the beginning of this show, I have always felt compelled to bring you the best that I've got. Now, there's always a why to doing whatever we do. So, as we go forward and face these challenges, know this: you listeners are my why, because I want to make sure I do everything I can to provide a safe, open, forward-moving space that allows you to call, email, text, or just listen to a guy that wants to help you bring out your own championship qualities to truly make this place better for us all. Lofty goal, idealistic, maybe so. But that's my why, and I look forward to bringing you the best that I've got. This is Richard Chu. Stay tuned.
This is Tony Moret. I'm an estate planning lawyer who drafts living trusts and wills. Since the election, I've been hearing from my clients, many of them fellow WCPT listeners. And we all wonder, how did this happen and what can we do? The how is, of course, very complicated. My thoughts as regard to what we can do is simple but important. We need to take extra care of those we love. Having an estate plan using either a living trust or will can provide comfort in uncertain times like these. When the progressive values we hold dear are under attack, I feel we must make sure that our personal lives are secure and then work out from there. I've been drafting estate plans for my clients for over 30 years, and I will use all of that experience to help you. Please call me at 847-996-0496. My website is moreylawoffice.com. That's More spelled M-O-R-E-E. Again, the phone is 847-996-0496. There is no cost or obligation for our initial discussion. I look forward to speaking with you.
Hey, Progressives, this is Richard Chu, host of Choose Views here on WCPT AM 820, 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have some real challenges in front of us as a country. Since the beginning of this show, I have always felt compelled to bring you the best that I've got. Now, there's always a why to doing whatever we do. So, as we go forward and face these challenges, know this: you listeners are my why, because I want to make sure I do everything I can to provide a safe, open, forward-moving space that allows you to call, email, text, or just listen to a guy that wants to help you bring out your own championship qualities to truly make this place better for us all. Lofty goal, idealistic, maybe so. But that's my why, and I look forward to speaking with you.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty showers and thunderstorms possible late today. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sunshine develops, a high in the upper 80s. Windy southwest winds increase around 20 to 30 miles per hour, gusting as high as 45. For tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 54. Saturday, partial sunshine, breezy, high around 67 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 70.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being with us. We get texts. We get lots of texts, and they are all over the map in terms of what people say. I just want to say thanks to everyone that sends a text, whether I agree with what you say or I don't. Thank you for sending the text in. Some of the things that people say are crazy, not accurate, and some things are opinions, and some things are factually based, and other things are suggestions. So we embrace it all. We can't respond to everything because we don't have the time, but just to let you all know that we do see your text. All right, as we say that, we also have to recognize, Henry, that we see your calls. So let's go to Robert real quickly in Gurnee. Hey, Robert, good morning, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning. I just wanted to sort of give support to what your guest had said, and I wanted to kind of bring a little perspective to it.
Okay.
I did kind of a deep dive into Project 2025, and what I can say, generally speaking, the Republican Party is degrading our society to the point where, wait, there's a cop right here. Let me see.
You get your Bluetooth on.
Where housing, food, healthcare, and education are privileges. If you delve into that document, that's what they're basically saying, and they're cutting everything. The proper response, to not be reactive, but the proper response is for the left, the political left, to assert that housing, food, healthcare, and education are human rights.
Bingo.
If we do that, because I'm going to an indivisible meeting in my area, and I'm going to present this. If we do that, their heads will explode.
Sure, they
will.
will.
It'll expose them for the idiots that they are. It will reveal their racist undertones, and it'll reveal their lack of humanity and compassion for the most basic elements of life, and having, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey, Robert, and check this out, man. Listen, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to partner with you on this, for the party that tries to present itself as the Christian, God-like, Jesus crowd, those things are sort of basic items of humanity, like Mayor Johnson was talking about a couple of weeks ago. I mean, am I crazy in saying that? Or
absolutely, one of the best retorts that I do when I talk to people is I go, "Do you think if Jesus were here, he would disagree with me that those things are rights?" And they never can respond. People that sit there that struggle to say housing's a human right. And just say, if they are all religious, you say, is that what you think Jesus would say? Do you think he would see a homeless person or a person that just got evicted because they didn't have enough money to pay their rent, that he would say, oh, too bad. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, brother? That's not what he would say.
Yeah. No,
we need to throw it right back in their faces, and we need to tell the American people, you have a right to these things. You don't live in the wealthiest country, so you can struggle from month to month, week to week, and not know whether or not you have enough food to put on your table to feed your kids, or you might lose your job and be out in the street.
Yep.
That's what we need to do. We don't need to defend ourselves against them. We need to say, this is a vision for the future,
and do it,
not what they're doing.
And go on attack with that, because a lot of people want to spout out that the Republicans got it all right, the Democrats are all wrong. I want to point out that the Democrats don't have it all right. They have it more right than the Republicans do, and go on attack about that. Hey, Robert, I got to ask you a quick. I don't know if you can do this or not, if it's allowed, or if you would be capable of doing it. But if there's any way you can get any video and or audio recording of the event that you're going to that you can grab. If you can do that, email it to my WCPT email address, which is richard@WCPT820.com. If you can.
Okay, I can. I was planning to have my wife record
when you do that piece.
My spiel.
Oh yeah, we got to record that, man, and I'd like to see it and see if it's something that we can play back, because I think people would love to hear that. Okay.
Very good. Very good.
All right, Robert.
Sounds good.
Be safe this weekend, and thanks for your contribution.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. All right, let's go to Paul in Seattle. Good morning, Paul. How are you, my friend? How you been?
Hey, Rich. How you doing?
I'm good.
I'm up early at it, just finishing up my 90 minutes on my elliptical.
There you go.
And getting the day started. But yeah, the guy, the last caller, I just want to kind of jump on with that. When he says things about human rights, we absolutely should be unequivocal about human rights. There are things, and this kind of comes to my major point about equivocation. I hear Democrats do this kind of equivocation all the time. It drives me nuts, because I went through this when I was teaching decades ago, teaching high school. Okay, so I listened to the first hour. You had a clip that somebody, I don't know who it was talking about Meals on Wheels. Please, everybody, resist the temptation to interview yourself and answer your own questions by trying to be fair-minded and even-handed. He said, Meals on Wheels it's only 1%, and we're working to clean it up. There's no fraud in Meals on Wheels. Number one, I guarantee you there's not. I don't know what kind of fraud that would be, but, my mom was on Meals on Wheels for all the 5 years that I was with her in Michigan there, and I don't know what I would have done without him. A nurse comes to evaluate my mom, and she evaluates her every 6 months. So the same is true of Social Security disability. You have to go to a doctor that Social Security sends you to verify that you have the disability that you do. I mean, I had to go, and it didn't take the guy, he kind of laughed. He looked at my eyes and goes, yeah, you're blind, all right. I'm like, yeah, good thing they sent me down there. But it reminds me of, and this is the point, when I was teaching, I remember, I think it was about 1993, I was teaching rhetoric, and one of my students wrote this, I'm teaching them how to write the 3-point essay. You got your thesis paragraph, your thesis sentence, your 3 supporting points, and your summary. And his point is NAFTA is bad. Okay. So he starts his summary paragraph by saying this. People in favor of NAFTA have a lot of good points. But I said, no. Listen, your paper is that NAFTA is bad. You don't start your concluding paragraph by saying that the people who are in favor have a lot of good points, because that's not what you're here to talk about. You didn't mention anything about what good points there might be about NAFTA, and that's what we're not here to do. Let them argue that.
Yep.
So we need to resist, never equivocate about our position that what MAGA and MAGA Republicans are doing is absolutely wrong and destructive, and there's nothing good about it. And frame it in the worst terms.
Yep.
Because that's to Medicaid, I can tell you. I can give you a personal example. There will be people who will die. And that, my partner's son is 45 years old. He lives with her. He has type 1 diabetes. He is blind from that. He has only one ear, so he's partially deaf. And he's already had a heart attack and a stroke when he was in his 30s. He also has developed in the last 5 years this terrible convulsive disorder where he suddenly gets very nauseated and starts dry heaving to the point where he can't even breathe. And he has to go to the hospital, and they usually admit him into the ICU. He's usually there for 2-3 days. Last time he was there for a week, 7 days in the hospital. And they don't understand what's going on with him. His blood sugar and his blood pressure just skyrocket. He was in deep trouble. And this hasn't happened to him for a couple of months, but this past month, he's been in the hospital 3 times. He's on Medicaid. I don't know if they just think it's okay if he just dies because they can't cover that. But there are people who will die without treatment, and he will. Well, I wish that people could see him when he's in that convulsive state.
Well, this is why part of why you're saying when it comes to the destruction of the Republican Party, the destructive things that maggots are doing, whether they be in a local blue community and they're yelling and screaming and saying that the Democrats are awful. No, it's the Republicans that are awful, and we have to stop. And I have to catch myself sometimes. I know when I look in the mirror, I have to be constantly ready, willing, and able, as I say, to call out the BS from the right all the time and not apologize for it mid-sentence. And I know what you're saying in that equivocation point. We have to be willing to do that all the time. It's tough, but it's not as tough as the crap that's rolling downhill from the GOP as a directive from Project 2025. There is no question in my mind that that's what we've all got to do together. And that's what they actually are fearful of, Paul, is that we all we catch ourselves and go, wait a minute, why do we half apologize for the things that we're standing up for? And you're spot on. Hey, listen, man, we got to hit this break. It's great to hear your voice. I'm glad you're doing well, and we look forward to hearing from you again soon, Paul. Take care and stay safe, okay?
Okay. I'm going to hit the showers now.
All right, man. Good job on your part. Thanks, Paul. Bye now. Paul was on that. He said he was on his elliptical, getting a little bit of workout in. Good for him. We're going to take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278 is the Credo mobile text and phone line. We'll be right back.
WCPT 20th Anniversary Replay 2019.
Hi, I am Joan Esposito, and I want to say it's an honor to be here. WCPT AM 820 is a place where people learn to talk about the things that matter. They learn about one another, and I am so happy to be a part of that. We are a progressive station, but I want you all to know that I welcome all points of view as long as we're civil and respectful. Different points of view can be entertained, but rudeness will not be. We can have honest discussions, we can ask tough questions, and maybe learn a little bit about our neighbors. So I hope you'll join me. I hope you will join me for this journey that kicks off today. I want to have some fun. I want to learn about you. I also want to talk to the people who are involved in the arts and cultural communities in Chicago.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. Great to have been with you this week, and we've had a number of really good clips that myself and Devin and myself and Henry put together for you, and of course our team here at CPT. Well, there's two that there's one in particular that I want you guys to hear, and this is the question that's been asked, like, how in the hell did we get to Trump? That question gets thrown out a lot, and I know there's the folks out there that are saying that he was going to come in and clean things up. And he's not. He's muckied up the waters even worse. His cabinet is a great example. A rogues gallery of incompetency. I know that people don't want me to call in names and all that, so I'm going to do my best to be respectful in that space. And just off of this conversation with Paul about equivocating, they let's be honest. If I can say anything that's not an indictment of them personally, so that I don't tick off those who are on the right that go, oh, Chew's at it again, he's name calling, whatever. They are some of the least capable people in the roles that they're in. They stink at the jobs, at doing their jobs, because they're not good at it. I mean, I'm biting my tongue to not say the other things, and y'all know it. The folks on the right, that that's the case. And you want to try to pretend like they're doing all this, rectifying and clearing up and cleaning up. Y'all, you either have lost your minds or you're in severe denial, or a little bit of both. That being said, there was a clip that we found that kind of goes back to the Batman series to talk about how Donald Trump is kind of like the Joker. And Henry has got this clip ready for you guys.
In The Dark Knight, the mob turns to the Joker because they're desperate. Batman has disrupted their business, making the old ways of crime unworkable. So they place their hopes in someone they don't understand, someone they think can fix their problem. He's a clown, he's a madman, sure, but they believe he can win. Of course, they're wrong. They underestimate what he's capable of, and by the time they realize it, it's too late. The Republican Party made a similar gamble. After Obama's historic victory in 2008, it looked like the GOP was on the verge of permanent decline. The so-called Obama coalition, young voters, people of color, suburban moderates, seemed like the future of the country. And with demographic change accelerating, especially with the prediction that America would become a majority-minority nation by 2050, a kind of existential panic set in at the Republican Party. Immigration became a flashpoint. Diversity became something to fear. And for Republican leaders, the path forward looked bleak. Either they broaden their appeal and risk losing their identity as a party, or they double down on an aging, shrinking base and keep losing elections. It was a lose-lose situation until Trump came along. He wasn't part of the establishment. He didn't play by the rules. And just like the mob turned into the Joker, the Republican Party leadership eventually turned to Trump despite initially opposing him. They thought they could control him. They thought that he was a means to an end. But once he took power, he wasn't interested in being controlled. He had his own game to play. And just like the Joker, he took over the entire operation.
And there you go. This is a good example of what the Republican Party has done in terms of yielding to this madman. And that he is acting like that. So those who are getting their undies in a bundle, why are you calling him a madman? Well, okay. You figured that one out. For all you who want to defy that what's happening is maddening. Okay. I'm a reasonable wordsmith, so I can make it still make sense without those who want to get frustrated. But I agree with what Paul said in the call earlier and what George said. Equivocation, and Dr. Shrader said, we got to be done with that. We got to be done with giving MAGA space. I'm putting my foot down, and if you don't like it, too bad. That's how we have to be as progressive liberal Democrats. And if the folks on the right don't like it, too damn bad. Bring a better idea, but they won't. Because all they'll do is they'll go to their standards. We got to fight immigration. We got to lower the cost of goods and groceries, and we got to fight inflation. The same old stuff, but none of it's about really helping the larger group of Americans, all Americans. See, that's the problem. Those of you on the right, your ideas only want to help your side or people that acquiesce to what your thinking is. It's not about broad-based thinking and open-minded thinking and helping a larger group of people. It's not. It's proven itself. Go back to Reagan. If you want to use your Saint Reagan God, and look at it historically. It's not helped the broader base of Americans. It's helped the segmented group of Americans that only if people genuflect and kneel to what you want, will you help them. And it's proof positive of what's going on with cutting benefits right now. People go down this path of waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm so sick and doggone tired of this waste, fraud, and abuse. That's why Doge, and that's what we have things in place to affect that. Why would you get rid of inspectors generals? Because they weren't doing the job you wanted them to do, which is to let your boy Donald and Elon get away with the craziness that they're getting away with. What cracks me up about it, Henry, and I know we will get to this next week, I promise you, some things I put together on our lieutenant governors. What cracks me up about it is how much MAGA lies to themselves about. And listen, I'm not giving anybody any space in this. This is where I won't equivocate. If you are supporting Trump and the administration right now, and you don't like being called MAGA or maggot, then stop supporting that. Because you're going to get called that a lot. And I'm hoping more Democrats continue to step up and speak truth to this without equivocating. I'm hoping in that space. And I'm going to do my part to keep that rally cry loud and strong. Let's grab one more call before we wrap up because I've got a clip I want to play for you guys at the end of the show. Let's go to Roosevelt. Hey, Roosevelt, good morning and welcome to the show.
Richard, first of all, have a nice weekend, my friend.
You too. Thank you.
Hey, listen, I saw a video yesterday.
Okay.
This is Trump, June 9th, 2017. This is what he said, and I quote, Qatar are funders, or in other words, they fund terrorism. Okay? I wish you could pull up that video and play it. So what I'm getting at is this little trip that he took. What a coincidence. Everywhere he lands, he has businesses, or he's going to have businesses. So it's a business trip, as far as I'm concerned. The thing about the plane, what is it going to take? And I'm not going to call it a Republican Party. It's a MAGA party. That's what it is.
Yep.
So what is it going to take for these guys to impeach this guy? He's,
They're not going to.
Yeah.
They're not going to, man.
They're shredding the Constitution.
Yeah.
And they're covering up for him.
Absolutely.
And there's a few of them. What's that? Holly, what's his name? He spoke about that. There's a few of them that are saying something, but not enough.
And we can't give them a trophy for that. That's their job, is to do that. They were elected to go in and serve the Constitution, not Donald Trump.
That's my point.
Yeah, good point, Roosevelt. All right, man, got to jump. Listen, thanks for calling in and thanks for your contribution.
Thank
you. You have a great weekend as well, Roosevelt. Appreciate you.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. So, guys, we try to do our best at this as we wrap up each show at the end of the week, at least, to bring you guys something to chew on and to hold on to for the weekend. And we've got a really cool clip that I think should be representative of where we are. I talked about care a little bit throughout the course of the week, and certainly at the beginning of today's show, and why it's important to make your life have something of meaning. And I say make your life count, but this is coming from the wonderful Neil deGrasse Tyson in terms of what he wants his life to be remembered as.
You know what I want on my tombstone? It's a quote from a famous American educator of 2 centuries ago. His name is Horace Mann. He was also a university president, I think it was. He gave a commencement speech, one of his last. And he says to the graduates, I beseech you. Love that word. Nobody uses that word anymore, beseech. Shakespeare loved it. I beseech you to treasure up in your hearts these my parting words. Be ashamed to die until you have scored some victory for humanity. I want that on my tombstone. I don't want any other monument but that on my tombstone. If everyone lived to that goal, how different the world would be, how enriched it would be with people's energy to improve the lot, not only of others as individuals, but of your neighborhood, your society, civilization itself.
Powerful words from Neil deGrasse Tyson. I heard a phrase this week. It was actually in a TV show, and it really drew me back to what Tyson says. The person said, I have a lot of baggage, and I don't want to burden you with it. Well, I believe we all have baggage. And I think one of the keys to giving our life some sense of meaning and wholeness is to recognize that we all have baggage. We all have some sort of baggage. We all have something that we carry that we struggle with. We all are fighting for a greater humanity. And we all have an opportunity to lean into that. And even in this crazy political time, I think it's incumbent on all of us to find someone with baggage. It might be ourselves, it may be our fellow man or woman, and find a way to help them share in the load of carrying that baggage. Because in helping them carry their baggage, you find help in carrying your own. I'll leave you guys with that. Have a great weekend. As we say always, Henry, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you next week.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish, at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solutions